It's absolutely wonderful to be here at this first annual event, as Patricia so rightly told us. It's really inspiring to see the list of awardees spanning so many sectors: political life, business life, the arts, education, media, philanthropy, and so much more besides. I have the pleasure of having met and got to know during my time here many of the awardees and to admire them greatly. And those that I don't know or don't yet know, I have to say I read all the biographies in Irish America, and it's so impressive to see that immense list of achievements. So wonderful initiative. But I do have to say I have one criticism, one very serious criticism. There is a major omission from this list. If anybody else had been compiling this list, of course Patricia Harty's name would have featured on it. And so I think I haven't consulted all my fellow awardees, but speaking in their name, there's a consensus vote to co-opt Patricia as one of our numbers. So thank you, Patricia, for all you do and for this initiative. Now, we're all who are getting this award, we're all women and we're all Irish or Irish Americans. So I suspect we're afflicted with a double dose of diffidence given that background. And of course, all of us will want to point to everybody who has helped us on the way and made us who we are. Our parents, particularly our mothers perhaps, our colleagues, our families, and all of that is absolutely right that it should be said. I feel it every day, absolutely every day of my life, how much I owe to those who support me, who surround me, the family that went before me. But I think at the same time, all of us who are being awarded, we should just take a moment to actually look back and to accept this honour and to look at all the hard work that has brought us to the point that we're at today. And I'm really looking forward around the tables, or perhaps here when the other speakers come to the mic, to hearing some of these stories. And we've all come different journeys. Neil was mentioning my over 40 years now in the Irish Department of Foreign Affairs. And sometimes it's really hard to remind myself of just how challenging it was in those initial years. It was a department, Anna, my colleague from the consulate here in New York, who's so much younger and one of our bright rising stars. Anna would hardly recognize the department that I would describe back those 40 years ago. It was exactly 40 years ago, in 1976, when I was a bright-eyed young woman of 24 years of age, that I went on my first posting abroad. I was already married at the time, and I was the first woman in the Irish Foreign Service to be posted abroad. So that was a great little footnote, but believe me, I had to argue. In the end, I had to threaten legal action in order to get a married officer's allowance and married officer's accommodation, because nobody had any concept of how you dealt with married women in the diplomatic service. And it wasn't just Ireland. 25 years after that, in 2001, I went as ambassador, permanent representative to the European Union, as Neil has mentioned. Now, I knew when I was going there that I was the first Irish woman to go into that role. There was nothing unusual about that. But I didn't know until I actually arrived in Brussels that I was the first woman ambassador ever from any member state of the European Union. This in almost 50 years of the life of the European Union. I remember very well the Financial Times had a little article about it at the time and said, she made history by sitting down. And I thought, that's one of the easiest ways ever to make history. But frankly, I sometimes do think if there had been more women around in those formative years in the European Union, maybe the Union would be in better shape than it is today. But in any event, as I say, all different journeys, all wonderful journeys, and I do want to congratulate each and every one of my fellow awardees. Cogorgeous to you all. Now, a few points just that I did want to touch on. Firstly, to say that 2016 is the ideal year to inaugurate these awards, this important centenary year, of course, for Ireland. And it's a time when we're not just looking back at the events of 1916, but we're examining the 100-year journey where we've arrived, and we are reimagining the future. And as part of all that reflection and reimagining, Irish women are reclaiming their space. And the history, and you all know this, I guess, or many of you know, the history of 1916 is actually being rewritten in a way that finally acknowledges the place of women in 1916 and rescues them from the margins and from the invisibility to which they had been consigned for so long. And here's what's most encouraging about this, that training this new lens on the past isn't something that's happening in isolation. It's part of a much broader reevaluation, a real interrogation as to how women came to be sidelined for so much of the last century, and a determination to disrupt the status quo and to create a new and more equal Ireland. And right across the board, we're seeing new initiatives. Women in the arts, and some of you will definitely have been in contact with this, they have triggered a movement, Waking the Feminists, which is finally shaking people out of their complacency. And just earlier this week, there was a report, for example, about women in third-level education in the third-level institutions in Ireland, and a report which sets down goals and timeframes for the advancement of women. And something that perhaps wasn't sufficiently noticed with all of the news stories about our general election earlier this year, it did see some real advances, not enough, but some real advances for women in Dáil Éireann. We're now at 35 women out of 158 seats, which is modest enough, but it's up from 15% to 22%. Excuse me. So, you know, you'll see from those indicators things are on the move in Ireland. And of course, the same is true here in the United States. As every single person in the room is aware, there is now a woman presumptive nominee for one of the main political parties. And whatever one's political view, and of course as an ambassador I don't have a political view, but whatever one's political view, one has to recognise this as a major milestone in the march towards equality and empowerment for women. But even as we acknowledge these advances, we need to recognise the scale of the challenge. In Ireland, despite all the progress, and it's very real, but we are still way off where we need to be in terms of women's leadership, whether in political life or in business life or public administration. I would describe us as being at base camp. We're energised for the climb ahead, but it's going to take effort and staying power and collective commitment if we are to continue that steady upward journey. And of course, here in America, there is a ferment of questioning. We're going to see how it all pans out, but there are very real questions as to the extent to which sexist attitudes will condition the presidential campaign here. And also, what are we to make of the generational divide that appears to have opened up between older women and younger women? And how do we bridge that gap so as to craft a feminism that is fit for purpose in the 21st century? And I think there are specific questions and challenges too for Irish America. We all know it very well, and Patricia reminds us very often that women emigrated from Ireland in equal numbers to men. They showed extraordinary courage and resilience, and they helped to write and shape the story of Irish America. And we need to continue to reclaim those stories. You were always talking about them, Patricia, and again reminding us of some of them. But we need to continue to reclaim those stories and to affirm the legacy. And just as we're asking these tough questions in Ireland today, we shouldn't hesitate to apply the same equality lens here too. We should be asking ourselves continually, how well do the structures and societies of Irish America reflect the equal role of women, giving them equal voice and equal visibility? And insofar as they fall short, well, what can we do about it? And just one final comment. Today's awards recognise 50 of us as power women. Now, for some of us, this mightn't exactly be our self-description, or we might ask ourselves where exactly we fit along the power spectrum. But I think there is one point on which every one of us would agree. Being powerful, quote unquote, it's of limited interest as a label or even as an accolade. There has to be a point and a purpose to it. We want to have power for something, to be in a position to shape and influence things, to help bring about change. Obviously, the ways we can affect change will be different for all of us, whether it's attitudinal change or societal change, workplace change. There are just so many interwoven challenges, and I think we all know and recognise that building a society that's fairer for women means building a society that's fairer for everyone. The two things simply go together. But the key is this: if power and responsibility go hand in hand, as they do, then today's awards bring us challenge as well as recognition. And together with all my fellow awardees, I think I can say we are gratified by the recognition, and we are up for the challenge. So thank you, Irish America, for bringing us all together on this day of celebration and recommitment. Go raibh míle maith agaibh go léir.